Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Spike Down Episode 3. My name is Keith LaFortune. Joining me is Roy, and we've done it. We've made it through the halfway point. We're just past it now, heading into Week 4. But we can't jump into Week 4 until we dive into what Week 3 had for us. And, of course, that means talent predictions. Roy, it was quite a week, I'd say. Quite a week for predictions. Your boy got a hot one off the stop, right off the top. But a pretty mild week for predictions again.
Yeah, this actually was maybe the first week where there was actually some like split decisions going on. And I'm not seeing Uber and Wyatt still cheating off each other's homework, so that's good. That is a big positive. But yeah, it was a tough week of predictions for sure.
Turned out okay. Obviously, Moisek Shopify, everyone clinches that one. I'm going to go through the obvious ones. M80 OXG, everyone was on board there. Obviously, your boy picking Core. They were able to give me some praises on that one. And you know what? I was a bit crazy to take it. I just had a feeling, and
Can I also defend myself?
Sure.
I would like to defend myself and also expose myself for being quite an idiot. I actually picked Core in the last content. We can pull up the records. I did pick Core in the content. But when I got sent the sheet, I'm doing the multiple choice. I just circled the wrong thing. But there's video proof, and you can vouch for this, that I did choose Core for the prediction. So technically, you and I are the only ones that got that one correct. But I'll hold the L because I'm an idiot. So it's completely fine.
It is true.
Completely fine.
Let's roll the clip. We'll see it. And when we come back, we'll hopefully be able to right that wrong. And
well, Core's playing up a little bit. YF's playing down a little bit. I feel like there's somewhere in the middle. I'm also going Core.
See, Winthrop, TSM, Vensley, and I went down in flames there. Sad TTR. Majority sad. TTR pulled that one away. So a week for predictions that, everyone still ended positive in the predictions. And that's all we can hope for. And of course, that means we're going to talk about last week's events. We're going to start at the top, work our way through. First up on the chopping block, Thinking Men versus Moist X Shopify. Roy, how do you feel about this game overall?
Okay, there's actually a lot of good takeaways. I'm going to start with, let's do like a sandwich method. Let's go with the sandwich method.
Okay, I like this.
One, I think Split was actually an amazing showing by Thinking Men. It was not a fluke. They had a very strong game plan. They played extremely well. They showed up. Vix popped off. There was multiple players that were just absolutely going crazy. That is the one positive, kind of nice. Actually, no, I'll add one more in there. I'll add one more in there as well. Okay, first week, Lear, the second week, Lear was moved in. He was substituted for Mr. Screwface. He did not perform very well in his debut matches with Thinking Men. This week, though, it was kind of a nice bounce back for him, though. So, like, it's always, like, feels good, man, to, like, have a bad week. Everyone's, like, doubting you, and then next week you're kind of showing up, performing pretty well. Kind of, like, it's good for, like, the team morale and, like, just putting everyone at ease, like, there's no questioning whether they made the right or wrong decision. And it's like, it's good that Lear's kind of showing up. But there are some negatives here, okay? I'll jump into some of them. One, Moist Shopify lost 6 pistols.
Yeah.
6. That's 100% lose rate on their pistols. They also lost 3 anti-bonuses. That's 6 pistols and 3 anti-bonuses. Like, there's unlucky, but that's not a good sign from my perspective.
Yeah, and I agree with your points on Split. It's interesting, like Split and Breeze were kind of Thinking Men's Split was exactly what Moisek Shopify's Breeze was, just really controlling the play, not really giving a chance, and Bind ended in a very close fashion. I think primary takeaway for me is Mata really is finally setting into, I don't know, his demon arc maybe is a good way to put it. This guy is just Mr. Consistent. And I think that's really important for a team like this. Yes, you have Brock and Vic to back you up. But if Mata can stay at this level, I think the support system this team has is top tier. We're seeing Brock, Vic, and Fly over 3 maps playing 3 agents. Really cool stuff from Moisek Shopify. Thinking Men, we'll dive into them a bit later because they're in a particularly awkward situation. But the second match of that day, Core YFP, your boy picked Core. I know everyone's going to be sick of me saying it, but hey, I can only say it for this week until you hear my predictions later. Initially, my takeaway from this match is I'm happy to see Bones performing to the level that you and I know he can. So that's takeaway one positive for YFP. The second positive, this isn't going to YFP, it's going to Core, is Zeldris. And honestly, the team as a whole a lot more together. There's more direction in the rounds. And I think Zeldris is the type of player where things get chaotic. You really have to mid-round and make individual decisions. It gets a little hairy, but he didn't even really have to make too many decisions because the rounds are playing out Core's favor. Not every time, but definitely comfortably. Sunset, you can't say that. But it felt like Zeldris had direction, and he was given the support, and he absolutely just controlled the server in both maps.
Oh man, I 100% agree. Like, you could tell that there was very clear round logic. Like, every week by week, Core is starting to show like a lot more confidence in the way they're playing the maps. Like, dude, I remember even on Sunset, there was a round where like they knew that YFP was about to go for the orb, but they had a trap set up on their attack side to counter like them snagging the orb, made them seem safe. They got their one way off. It was completely quiet on the map. Like, okay, we can grab our ult. The YFP goes to snag their ult orb. Boom, a huge trap play coming out by Core. Like, you can just tell that their like round logic is like very well structured, and there's like clear go-tos. I also want to say, like, that series between YFP and Core could literally be its own frag montage, and it would be like a very high tier frag montage. Like, there were so many situations and moments where like players are just going berserk, dude. Like, insane clips, awesome frags, clean, like super like satisfying. Like, comes to mind Mr. Ziff's like game-ending clutch. Like, he had many like multiple of those situations. There were just so many rounds where it's like 3Ks, 4Ks, like left and right aces. Like, dude, what is going on? It's literally a cinema. Man. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's a double-edged sword because it's great to see Core finding a win, but YFP could have maintained, right? Could have been 2-1, and they could have been in a such more comfortable position. And also playing Core when they did. Now Core is up in round differential -9, where YFP's now -12. But they're not the scary group for now, so I think they should be okay. But overall, if you missed it, definitely go check out some highlights. The weekly highlight's going to be coming up this week. If you want to go check that out,
I'm going to rewatch that.
Going to be a lot of clips in there. And that wraps up day one. Day two is the day of 2-0s, the only day where both series ended in 2-0, and it was TSM Winthrop kicking off, then M80 Glazers. We'll start at the top. Winthrop, my feeling from this one, Roy, I suppose, to kick off your thoughts, they didn't feel like themselves this week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it's like they weren't themselves, or just TSM's power creep curve is really starting to kick in. But I mean, TSM is looking good, man. Like, we honestly can't deny that. Like, the haters are slowly kind of getting quiet. And I mean, even like, you can just, for me, when a duelist starts popping off to the level that Sim is popping off, it means that like the gears are in motion, right? Like, you know, you're getting set up, you have a nice clean first kill, first death. Like, you can be a great duelist, but if you're not in a good system, like, you'll never know if that person is good or not, you know? Like, Sim is obviously talented, but like the fact that they're starting to like get their roles comfy, their structure starting to show, like, kind of like we're getting more insight into their system and like how it operates. Like, I think we're starting to see TSM kind of like creeping into the top 5 rankings for this week.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I do want to say Lotus, Winthrop played well, clearly a little slow to get going. Losing pistols was a big thing. I don't think they won one pistol, but it didn't matter because they lost the following round on Breeze. I would say Lotus was okay for Winthrop. I think it's continuing to show to be a consistent map for them that they perform. Breeze was just the Sim 7 show, heavily backed by the triple support players, essentially. It was just really, it felt really easy for them. They were able to poke and prod. All the trap plays Winthrop were trying to do off barrier, you know, with the Yoru and interesting mollies and jet peaks with dashes and darts. Didn't really catch TSM off guard. And that is a map where typically if you overstep into a main, you overstep into mid, next thing you know, you're getting swung from 3 places. But TSM never really let that slip or let that happen. Just a controllable map from them. And I'd be scared to play TSM on Breeze, I'm going to be honest. Old school comp, good time results, really.
I think for me, like, one maybe kind of like final note on my end is that, like, we actually are seeing a good continuation of the performance by Infiltrator from last week. Like, first week, Infiltrator was just a little quiet. He was a little timid, right? Second week, he was starting to have like really good performances. And then this week, I mean, yeah, despite their kind of harsh loss against TSM, not only in a 2-0, but like obviously the scoreline just wasn't close. But Infiltrator was still playing pretty well, all things considered. And he's playing against some of the best players in the region, right? Like at this level, like these players are no joke, dude. So for him to be performing well, even on a team that is kind of struggling in terms of like matching and on different areas, like he's doing pretty well. So look, I'm going to be looking out for that personally.
Yeah, and if he can keep it up, who knows? Definitely still a lot to play left in the season. It's only stage 1. And M80, the Glazers, to round out day 2. And I think the main talking point for me right off the rip, I guess 2. 1, Xander's absolutely nuts and finally dialed back into where he was last year's Ascension. And 2, the Glazers are just unlucky. I still feel like they're so playing unlucky. They're playing good. It's just it's never feels like they're behind. And I know you could say, well, Icebox felt like it, but it's 13-7, 13-6. They're playing okay. They don't feel behind, but they're 0-3, and that's the kicker, really.
Yeah, dude. Like, no, I completely agree. I don't think Glazers are playing poorly. Like, I have that down in my notes in like 10 different areas. Like, they are not playing poorly at all. It's just one. There's like those little edges in team play and like kind of like pop-off potential they're kind of lacking. They are also getting kind of fifth in the openers too. That is one area they could definitely look to. Maybe they just were unlucky that series. I'm not entirely sure. But that and their opening schedule was tough, dude. They had a really tough opening schedule. And that makes me kind of starting to think a little bit like, did the Glazers need to win their match against Turtle in the first, was it week 1 or week 2? I can't remember.
Week 1, yeah.
Week 1. I think they needed to like really, that was like the match that they needed to win if they wanted like a comfy spot to like avoid even the conversation of relegation. But as of right now, they're 0-3, dude. That's scary place to be right now. There's only like what, there's this week, the upcoming week 4?
2 matches, yeah, 2 weeks left.
Week 5, and that's it. We're going into relegations right away.
Yeah.
That's scuffed, dude. That's very, very unlucky, dude.
Yeah, and if they beat SAD, it comes down to Winthrop Glazers head-to-head and maybe seeing who gets bottom of the group, really, for relegation. After next week, we're really going to have a more clear picture of what it's going to look like, but the Glazers really need to hopefully turn that ship around. Tough next 2 matches ahead of them, but I think if they play like they have against their first 3 opponents, they should be in a more comfortable position in their next 2 games. And M80, not much to say. Xander just played unreal, felt like he was in the right spots at the right time pretty much every round. And not a lot of negatives. I mean, just really solid team play, but it's kind of what we expect from Nitro, happy teaming up and having the same core. It's consistency from them. Anything else to add on that, Roy? Or?
Yeah, I mean, I got one more point. I think the level of like the years of experience that Nitro and Happy have is probably much older than the average age in challengers.
Probably true.
Do what you will with that information. Do what you will with that information. But it's just crazy to think about. But yeah, we can move on. Yeah,
so we end the week with Turtle Troop versus SAD. Auction together with Terrific. Obviously going to start with Turtle Troop SAD. A series again where another team, another series lets SAD's Ascent, which pretty much did get them through the qualifier. Ascent was a heavy played map for them, and it continues to be so with this comp that they're unwavering from, and TTR weren't scared. In fact, they have an interesting niche of their own in the comp department. It's Adder on the Deadlock. How do you feel about the series, and more specifically, the comp diversity? Because it felt like we had quite a bit in the series.
I'm starting to like I was having a conversation recently about the Ascent meta, actually, and it kind of makes sense why a lot of teams are starting to just like pull out super wacky, like I say wacky and like, but it's not a negative thing, just like wackies and like out of the realm of kind of what everyone's comfortable looking at and watching. And it kind of makes sense why teams are sort of starting to do this, right? Because like everyone knows how the KO comp plays now, right? So like the teams that pull out something that can make the enemy team uncomfortable gives them an edge because they know how both comps operate, but the enemy team can only know how their like the meta comp operates and whatever wacky comp that they pull out as well, if that makes sense. So like it kind of makes sense why teams are starting to like just pull out these like wild card comps, because like you play the meta comp, map's 50-50, dude. Like you can have an insane team, but like the map is just so fleshed out and the meta is just so like on the paper now that like anyone can play the map. Literally, you watch T3 teams, they can probably take Ascent 50-50 off like even some of the best teams, right? Like it kind of makes sense. I just don't know how effectively they're playing at. But what I will say is how funny that map was to watch. Like, I know that sounds weird, but like Ascent was really funny to watch because Sad was doing super well in the beginning. And it was just like bloopers after bloopers, dude. Like just like aftershocking ourselves, like flashing teammates, just a circus show at some point.
There is some moments, and it's fun. It's weird because when I think of this core comp, I like it. Or at the sad comp, core comp. Yep. I'm just hyped on my core pick.
I just love
the sad comp. It almost feels like they have too many options with their utility, and I think it got to a point where Turtle Troop were like, why are we even going to respect this? And B-Dog just started going wherever he wanted. No true Sentinel, not needed, but that means you need to have info and you have to have ideas what to do. And it felt like having overwhelming options with your utility, but none of that utility helps in late round in the sense of like flank watching, info gathering, outside of obviously Gecko. A lot of faces had to be peeked from Sad. They needed to use their eyes to gather this info. And I think that's where B-Dog and Corey it's absolutely dominated that map. Sunset, close. Definitely closer in Ascent. Another deadlock map from Adder. Still trying to figure out if I like that.
The deadlock on Sunset specifically?
And Ascent. It's growing on me. Mm-hmm. I think I just need a more sample size. Or more like combos with her utility is maybe.
Yeah. I think Turtle was kind of using Deadlock like a pseudo Sage where they were like on at least on their defense side, they were just using like the net to just like block off parts of the map early, like B main. They're just like walling off B main immediately. On the attack side, they're using the grav net to like confirm targets, whether if there are players on the site, so they can like dedicate more util, like the Omen flash, and like it kind of made sense like the way they were playing it. I can't tell for sure. I'm not confident in whether like if they just played a Sage, if they would get more value from the Sage, or if it's just having the deadlock and unknown, like making people uncomfortable again on Ascent is that value is more important than just like running a Sage that could be on paper have more value. I don't know, but it's worked for them, so I can't even like hate on it.
Yeah, Adder just unfortunately -5 in the first kill first death department. Never a great number when you're the Sentinel and want to live. But overall. TTR guide the ship back to normality. Sad put up a fight. And then the final match. This one might have the least amount of notes. It's Oxygen versus Together We're Terrific. And what a series it was. 13-4 on Ascent for Oxygen and 13-2 on Sunset. I mean, Verno, you could pick anyone on this team and make a point of why they played well this week, which is a wild thought to have.
Yeah, I mean, instead of us having like repetitive conversations about how awesome Oxygen is and how good their players are, I would like to point out one specific player that is, in my opinion, is going to be like the small edge that Oxygen will need to like really challenge an Ascension and like almost guarantee their place in partner league and VCT. And it's the Mitch differential. Like Mitch is starting to look confident, and he's starting to be like really comfortable in his role as the IGL on the team, and like he popped off on that first map. Like it was a straight up Mitch daddy carry, like straight up. Like that's just all it was. And like they're gonna need they're gonna need that like to challenge some of the best teams. You know what I mean? Like they're gonna need every edge they can get, and having like an IGL that's starting to pay less and less of the IGL tax on the team is gonna be that kind of edge that you need to have like all players firing on cylinders.
Yeah, and his KO. One of my favorite agents to watch, Mitch John, and you can kind of see the comparison. Maybe his guy gets him in more awkward situations, but his KO numbers are
clean,
super impressive. It's really nice to see. And the cast on Oxygen continues to be a dominating number in nearly every series they play. Overall, good for Oxygen, bad for TWT. But TWT put themselves in a position where they should be okay moving forward. Speaking of moving forward, it is time to talk about some future topics. Let's dive into at least how I see it. Roy, and you can correct me if you'd like. The three teams that are starting to, I put find themselves. Maybe that's not the most comfortable way to put it. Teams that are starting to assert themselves might have been a better way to go.
Yeah, solidify their positions.
Shopify, Moisex, Shopify, Oxygen, M80. I said Moisex, Shopify twice because they're in my head, I guess. So overall, Safe to say the top three. I know we talked about Big Dogs episode 1. Safe to say they're emerging comfortably, though.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think, okay, so Moist, Oxygen, M80, those are like obvious, right? Those are the big three. We refer to them as the big three. If you ever hear us saying big three, we're talking about those teams. Yep. But now we're starting to like, okay, TSM has crept up, right? They're kind of solidified themselves. Turtle Troops kind of solidified themselves. Like, dude, their Turtle Troops early wins are massive, man. And it's put them in a really good spot. And same that can be said for TWT. Like, they're in a great spot now. Like, even if they lose out, the chances of them entering relegation are extremely slim. Obviously, points are super important, so we do have to like have this conversation at some point. But like for now, going into week 4, I think those teams are kind of sitting pretty.
So now that we've covered the big three, the 3 big dogs, it's time to talk about the important weeks ahead for some of the other teams and the ones that stood out to Roy and I. Thinking Men and Glazers in the hot seat. Talk to me a little bit about Thinking Men, Roy. Why are they in this position? Can they get out of it?
Yeah, so for context, Thinking Men are 0-3, right? Minus 21 rounds. It's looking kind of dire. They're up against Core. Now, if they beat Core, that will kind of even up sort of like the bottom stage, right? It'll kind of evens up the teammate side of things. If Thinking Men lose against Core, it's going to be extremely tough because they'll have to defeat TWT in the final game to even have a chance to not be relegated. Like this upcoming match for week 4 for Thinking Men, in my eyes, is like a do or die. Like you win this match, you put yourself in a decent spot to challenge yourself out of that kind of hole that you might find yourself in. If you lose this upcoming match, it's doom and gloom for Thinking Men. Yeah. So it's tough, man. It's a tough position to be in. It's a lot of pressure.
And it's pretty much a very similar situation, if not very identical to the Glazers. Negative 26, they play SAD. SAD are 1-2. Then they end their season with Winthrop. If the Glazers can beat both of them, in theory, they should be safe, barring Winthrop beating M80, which that's going to be an important game in and of itself. If they can do that, then they've kind of put the Glazers in a really tough spot.
Yeah.
So definitely a couple teams to keep your eye on, because this week determines what we're going to look at for relegation. And who knows, we could be welcoming some new teams in the near future. But long road ahead, you don't want to be in that situation at all. So this week is pivotal for that. And with that, that means it's time for us to predict. It's time for Roy and I to make our lovely predictions. I told him I'd kick off day 1. And
all right, hit me.
So day 1, it's an okay day. Some could say a very important day for the Glazers. SAD versus the Glazers, TTR versus TSM. And
wait, before you predict,
yes,
I would like to remind everyone that SAD versus the Glazers is extremely important. So I'm holding Keith to a higher standard on this prediction. Yes. I'm holding myself to a higher standard on this prediction.
We must keep ourselves to a higher standard. With that in mind, I'm picking the Glazers. They know the situation they're in. Now, let me justify this. They know the situation they're in. Not only that, SAD's level of play has dipped a little bit. Their creativity is on the rise, but their team play, now that they're playing teams that seemingly are more consistent than perhaps other teams in past events they've played, SAD are still trying to figure things out. The Glazers, to me, have been playing consistent. We're harsh on them because we have a high standard for these players, but they are playing a decent level of Valorant that isn't dipping, it isn't rising, they're consistently there. Now for TTR versus TSM, I'm going to go against all logic. TSM's on the rise, they're looking great, Sim's getting integrated in the system, they have consistency, but I think TTR, and again, this is crazy, I really think TTR have figured it out. I felt like this last week was bumpy. It didn't really feel like TTR, even the SAD win. Like, it's B-Dog is B-God. You said it. You see him in chat. The big main points for this is Stellar seems comfortable. Corey and B-Dog are playing to their potential. And Weedon and Adder just need to show up. And I mean that in the sense of throwing their utility and being those good side anchors and rotators that they are. Adder ain't really rotating. Weedon's a little all over the place, which is cool. But I think if B-Dog and Corey continue this, and Stellar has the calls that he had, they were really good at poking, prodding the map. That's how I'm feeling for that week. I don't know if that's fair, but I got Glazers TTR. Are you on board, or are you going with the complete opposite?
All right, so the way I see it is you've definitely cooked something.
Yeah.
Now, is it a Michelin guide? Is it a Michelin star? I'm not entirely sure if you've cooked that kind of meal yet. I'm not ready to rate it that highly. I do like what you're cooking. I'm not going to give my opinion because it's my turn to do my predictions now. We've heard your predictions. Okay, let's go back. Let's reel it back. Sad versus the Glazers.
Yeah.
I got to go with the Zoomers, dude. I have to do it. I have to go with Sad. Even though mentally, I know this is a 50-50, maybe slightly skewed in the Glazers' side. Yeah. I know that. But Sad are just unpredictable. And they're good within that unpredictability. And their chaos is like kind of their comfort zone. And I got to respect that. I just have to respect it. So I'm going with the Zoomers, dude. I'm going with Sad for match number 1. 2, TTR versus TSM. Listen, I tasted your meal.
Yeah.
You know, it's good. It's good. I can't hate on the meal. But I'm gonna have to go next door over to TSM because I think I like what they're cooking up over there.
And that's fair. I think I am a little crazy for not going down the TSM door with you. And what about day 2? All right, you kick it off here. I want to see where you're at.
All right, so TWT versus Moist X Shopify. Moist, of course. It's not really. It's hard. It's really hard to make a concrete argument against Moist in this series. Like, yeah, maybe they've not been playing to the level they should be against teams that we rated kind of like lower than them. Mm-hmm. But dude, they lost 6 pistols and 3 bonuses and still won a series. Like, as long as they don't lose 6 pistols in this series, I think they'll be chilling. They'll be chilling. All right, number 2, Oxygen versus YFP. I'm liking what YFP is doing. Okay, I like their role swaps. I think it looks a lot more natural. Even like to my eyes, it looks more appealing to see these players on their roles that they're on. I think it suits them a lot more. But I just don't think they've recovered from the post era. So I'm gonna go with Oxygen on this one. They're looking good. Daddy Mitch is kind of starting to pop off in the system. Yeah, I think I'm leaning for Oxygen here.
Yeah, I'm on board with both of those picks. We're in agreement. M80, Winthrop, I'll go first on this one, then I'll give you the last one. You'll see if you agree with me here. Say it with me with M80.
Yeah, okay. M80.
Yeah.
Go next.
Yeah, I think Winthrop could. If they prove me wrong, I would love it. And we'll leave it at that. Core Think, Roy, I want you to lead this one. Because again, another one of those pivotal games. It's crazy how the start of the week, must-win series. Last day of the week, must-win series. For Thinking. And obviously for the Glazers. So I'm going to put their fate in your hands.
I can't believe you're making me go first on this one. That's actually insane. I think my heart is saying Core. I think I'm leaning Core on this one. I do like Thinking Men, though. I don't want to make it seem like I'm not a fan of Thinking Men, okay? Yeah. I like their curve. It's a nice curve. It's clean. They're starting to pop off. Players are getting comfy, right? There's a lot of like psyche shedding that they needed to do, and I think they're shedding quite nicely, and they're regrowing into this like kind of like new team. I'm liking how Lear's fitting into the system as well. But Core, man, after watching them last week, they've impressed me a little bit. They're growing on me a little bit. So I'm going Core for that one.
Yes, I am on board with the Core pick as well. A team that I think Zeldris, Ziff, deadly combo. If T-Dog pops off like we saw last week, we have another highlight reel week. I don't know if Think we'll be up to the task, but it's up to fate. It's up to whatever happens. Let us know what you think about our predictions in the chat. Good, bad, who was better? I don't know. We'll leave that up to you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in for episode 3 of Spike Down. We'll catch you next week. Enjoy the games.